Well, good morning, everyone. So you got a little preview of the scripture reading for this morning. But we're going to actually back up and hear a little of what you probably heard last week as well, to set the context. So beginning with the first verse of the 5th chapter of Matthew. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. And then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It's no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." May God bless us with an understanding of this holy word. All right, good morning, everyone. down here is where, that's where the action happens usually, right? Okay. Well, those might be familiar words. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. How do you feel when you hear those words? Do you feel like, yes, Jesus, you're right. That's exactly who I am. Or do you feel like, wait, who is? Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah. Let's put those words into the context of the Sermon on the Mount, because I think when we do so, they sound different. Now, I understand that my friend Abby Norton-Levering was here last week preaching for you, right? Did she preach on these words? What's that? Not the salt part, but you got the Beatitudes part? Okay. And those maybe are familiar words to many of you. Anybody here have to memorize them in Sunday school? Oh, yeah. 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 One of those things that kind of sticks with you, right? Now, here's the thing I think is important to remember. We'll have to start off with a little in last week's episode section of the sermon here. Okay, so in last week's episode of the Beatitudes, of these series of blessings that Jesus declares, there's something really important that I want to highlight about those blessings. Do you notice that the word should does not occur in the Beatitudes? Right? Did you notice that? That's very important, because that means that this is not lessons on how you should be. You should be mournful. You should be meek. You should be persecuted. Because if you are those things, then you will be blessed by God, that you will earn or deserve God's blessings. Right? Did you notice that's not what's there? The Beatitudes are not if-then statements. If you are meek, then you'll be blessed. If you mourn, then you are blessed. There's no should, there's no causation, there's no if-then. What these statements are observations. Think about it. There's Jesus standing up on the mountain. There he is standing, looking at the crowds before him. He's noticing the kind of people who get attracted to him, the kind of people who I am certain were there in the crowd that came to hear him speak. He notices them. He says, oh, I know you. You people, you're the meek. You people, you are those who mourn. You're the ones who are suffering for righteousness' sake. You're the ones who are trying to make peace. I recognize you. You're my people, he says, right? And because I recognize you, I can tell you what I see when I see you. And I see blessing. This is descriptive of who these people are right then, right now. Blessed are you now. When you are mourning, when you are pushed to the side, when you are hurting, you're blessed right now as you are. Not because, not when later you get over that, but right now you're blessed. That's important, because then from that statement, Jesus goes on to say, all of you who are blessed, you could be a blessing to someone else. You could be the salt of the earth. You are the salt of the earth. You affect the flavor of everything around you. You are the light of the world. You can shine out in darkness, so don't hide, shine. Take the blessing that you are. Take the blessing that you have received and share it with the world. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? If we pull those words out of the context that they're in the Beatitudes, right? If we just make them a little aphorism, a little saying, you are the light of the world. It sounds, in a way, like Jesus is commending exceptional people. This whole passage, you are the light of the world, so don't hide your light under a bushel, let it shine. It sounds like it could be like the commencement speech for a gifted and talented school, right? Right? All of you highly exceptional, highly skilled, very special people, go forth and make the world better because you're so special and you have so many gifts. The world would be suffocating in darkness if it weren't for your special light. That's what it could be. But put those words back into the context of that beginning of the Sermon on the Mount, of Jesus saying to this group of people who are mourning and who are persecuted and who are suffering, pushed to the side. Jesus says to them, you are the light of the world. It sounds different, doesn't it? It sounds different. Could it be true? Could it be true that these people who aren't exceptional in the context of their world, the people who haven't gotten selected for the prizes, the people who aren't recognized, the people who aren't congratulated already, could it be that those people can shine out the light of blessing into the world? What do you think? What do you think? I guess it depends on how we think of ourselves, doesn't it? Oh, there's those days when we feel bright and shiny, but there's a lot of days when we feel the light that we have for the world is sort of like the fading flashlight that we keep in the basement and hope that the batteries are still kind of working. You know, that feels often like the light that I have to offer. Yeah? But Jesus says, you now, you are the light of the world. What does that mean? That even people who are struggling, even people who are pushed aside, not the exceptional fancy people, that those people are lights. Well, let me just ask you, have you ever seen anybody who's a light to the world? Do you know anybody who it feels like to you that they've shown out the light of God to you, illuminated your life in some way? Anybody know anybody like that? Right? You do? A name?
Betsy.
Yeah?
Betsy. Pastor Dawn.
Pastor Dawn.
Nancy.
Nancy.
Mary Bishop.
Yeah.
Mary Bishop.
Someone that you can encounter and it feels like your life is a little less dim, a little dark, less dark, because they were there in front of you, around you, near you. You know that feeling? All right. So this passage was on my mind last week when I was in Penn Station in New York. Anybody been in Penn Station recently? Yeah? That's quite a slice of humanity there, isn't it? Well, I decided when I was in Penn Station I would do a little thought experiment. I thought I'd try something out. This passage was on my mind, so I thought I would just go around and see if I could find the light of the world shining out of the people in Penn Station. You're laughing. You think it was a hard job? Well, I promise you I didn't do this out loud because, well, then I'd become one of the characters of Penn Station, I guess. But I went around and I decided I looked like just one of the other people at Penn Station walking around with my rolling suitcase. But as I was doing that, I decided I would look at people and say to myself, in my mind only, say, you are the light of the world. That I would walk around and notice people in Penn Station and say, you are the light of the world. That I would be like Jesus for a minute or two. It was an interesting thought experiment. I was walking along, and the first person I did it to, I saw somebody in front of me, and I said, just in my mind only, said, you are the light of the world. And you know what happened? This woman who was walking along, talking on her cell phone, the minute I said to myself, you are the light of the world, she lit up in a smile. Somebody who she was talking to had said something to her on the phone that made her smile, but I noticed her smile. And you know what? Her smile lit up that whole hallway. When I looked at her and noticed her smile and said, you are the light of the world, you know what? She was the light of the world for that moment. That built my confidence in this passage a little bit. And so then I turned the corner and I said, you are the light. And there was this duo of guys with dreads, and they were playing. One had an electric cello and one had an electric violin, and they were playing to a track of Vivaldi, Four Seasons. And they were playing as people came up out of the 1 and 2 train, and there they were playing for all their might, full concentration, and they were the light of the world. The light of the world, right there in Penn Station. This was an incredible day I was having. I walked through the station. You are the light of the world, I said to this woman who had bright green hair and bright green leggings to match. I said, you are the light of the world, and I meant it, and I saw it. You are the light of the world, I said to a guy who had just seen somebody he knew on the other side of the platform, and his blank face went to one that lit up when he saw his friend. You are the light of the world. What a bright and sparkly place Penn Station was. When I went through the whole station saying this to everybody, the whole place just seemed to be gleaming and beaming with divine light. And then I turned the corner and I almost walked into a guy who was lying on the floor. He was only wearing a pair of sweatpants, and he had a hand down the front of his pants, and he was lying on the floor, passed out. "You are the light of the world," I said, and moved on quickly. And then it was hard not to notice, but there was a guy who was sitting on the stairs, kind of walking, where you can walk down there into Penn Station. He was sitting on the stairs, and he was in mid-rant, expletive-filled rant. He was mad at somebody, or maybe he was just mad at everybody, but he was on a tear about how everybody in the world was something that I can't repeat here in church. You are the light of the world? Could it be? I mean, those people, the man passed out on the floor of Penn Station, the guy on the rant on the stairs, those people were having a very different effect on me than the woman smiling with her cell phone, than the two guys playing Vivaldi. They didn't make me happy. They didn't make me smile. They made me cringe. Could they be light of the world? Were they showing forth their kindness or their goodness? But here's the thing. That's who Jesus was talking to. He wasn't talking to the shiny and happy people. He wasn't talking to the duo playing Vivaldi as he stood there on the top of the mountain. He wasn't talking to people who everyone could recognize as shining forth with the goodness of God. He was talking to people who made people cringe. He was talking to people who other people pushed to the side. We know that because that's who he approaches time and again in the Gospels. The one with leprosy pushed all the way to the edge. The woman who's been bleeding, who no one can even come near. The tax collector who everyone makes judgments about. Those are the people he approaches. Those are the people he wants to come close to. Those aren't the people he pushes aside. Those are the people who he says, you are blessed. You are blessed right now as you are. So, what if that would be true for us too, now? Friends, this is the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is the message that's central to the one we call Lord. And it's a deeply promising and deeply disturbing message because it makes us walk through Penn Station differently. It makes us look at the people around us differently. Because it makes us look at ourselves differently. Because I don't know about you, but I have that whole world of Penn Station in my heart. I've got the part of me that makes people smile. I've got the part of me that adds some sparkle. But friends, I have in me the part that wants to just sit on the stairs and tell the rest of the world off too. I've got it in me. We've got it here. This is us. We are that group. And Jesus looks at us and says, you are already blessed. You are now the light of the world. May we let that light shine. Thanks be to God. Amen.